Hi friends, it's Lauren here at Craft Some Joy. I am so excited to be partnering with Kylie Kingham at Paper Sweet Pea one more time to bring you a fun new edition of Scrap With Me. We have been using the beautiful new Golden Harvest collection from Creative Memories. I have to say, I think this is one of my favorites. It is a stunning collection, gorgeous colors, the patterns are so fun, and there's just so many choices on how to create with this collection. I can't wait to share with you what I've created with this beautiful collection, but also be sure once you're done watching my video to hop on over to Kylie's channel and see the amazing pages she's created as well. You can find her and all her shopping links and social links in the description of this video. Let's jump in and scrap together. So today, as I mentioned, we are going to be using the beautiful Golden Harvest collection. Just such a favorite of mine. I just have to keep saying that. And we are going to create this page layout. So what I've done is actually created the left-hand side, and I'm going to take you in this video how to create the right-hand side, but basically the concept is the same for both pages. So instead of recreating this exact page, I'm going to show you the companion page. And so what you're going to need to pull to do these two pages are the Golden Harvest Laser Cut Embellishment Pack. And if you'll notice, I really focused on kind of the leaves and pumpkin aspect in this layout. We're also going to need some of the mats from the mat pack. And I used one of the gorgeous big 4.5 by 6.5 mats to back this photo with the dark brown wood paper. And then, kind of just go along with what works for your photos. That's always my key. And especially the same for how much to trim your paper. And I'll go over that in a little bit too. Okay, so one little trick I just want to make mention of is one of the mat cards. I actually ended up fussy cutting the pumpkins out of this card. So you can see there's actually still another one I can cut out from the opposite side, but I wanted an embellishment that kind of really stood out some more. And when I saw this on the mat card, I thought, oh, that's perfect. And we are also going to need some of the stickers. So make sure you grab your sticker sheets. And I also am going to use one of the layered embellishments. This one, again, going back in with the pumpkins. So grab your layered embellishments. And then let's talk paper. So there are actually 3 paper collections that I am pulling from today. I'm pulling from the Golden Harvest designer paper, the Golden Harvest tone on tone paper, and this was one of the paper buffet selections, which was the Shades of Golden Harvest designer paper pack. Now, if you didn't happen to purchase this pack, then my best advice is just substitute something for these similar colors and patterns that I've chosen here with some of the other papers in the collection, okay? Or maybe something from your stash. But I really wanted to pull in some of the Shades of pack because I just haven't had enough chance to play with it. And I do love how some of these darker, richer colors pull in a lot of the different elements from this collection. Okay, so from the Shades of Golden Harvest designer paper pack, these are the 3 papers we are going to be using. You will need 2 sheets of this dark green speckled paper that has the kind of corkish texture on the backside. We are also going to need 2 sheets of this orange stripe paper, which has the pebble on the back. And we will just need 1 sheet of this minty green paper that has the brown dot on the back. Okay, so since I've already made one of my pages, I only have 1 sheet each of these left, but you will need 2 for both of these. Okay, We will save paper, I promise. I'm going to show you. We will get them. And so, you know, whatever's layered behind, you'll be able to save. And then from the Tone on Tone paper pack, we are going to be using I love this Tone on Tone paper. I think I need to buy 10 more packs of it because there's some of these papers that are just so universal and amazing. So we're going to use this Tone on Tone sprig paper with the dark green on the back. Just a little bit of this deep, rich brown wood paper. And I think one of my all-time favorites, the burlap, which has the denim on the back. And we're going to be very conservative with how we use this paper. And I'm going to show you a little trick on how to create this background with just a few simple slices. Okay, so those are the papers we're going to need from the Tone on Tone pack. And lastly, to go all in pumpkin, we are going to need the pumpkin paper from the designer paper pack. And that's with all the cute little patterns on here and the orange leaves on the back. Okay, so that's our paper selection, our embellishments, our stickers. Now let's talk tools. You'll notice from my page that I've actually used a couple of our punches. One is the Leafy Vine border punch and the beveled tag punch. Okay, so you see that here and here. You're also going to need to grab your 12-inch trimmer, your personal trimmer, all your goodies, your microtip scissors, some adhesive, and make sure if you haven't purchased some foam tape, I am actually really loving this foam tape from Creative Memories. So you'll notice it gives a really nice solid base on these larger embellishments to give the shadow feature. And I'm just really loving the foam tape. So I'll be using that on the embellishments. And then one last kind of different tool I'm going to have you grab today, because we're going to do a little something different, is just a kind of a rough nail file, just any kind of a nail file, but that it's not one of the fine ones, but something that's a little more rough. You can kind of see the grit on here, or even if you have a little bit of sandpaper. So what you'll notice, and this is optional, this is only if you like this feature, but you can notice on my page on the orange, I actually distressed this a little bit. And for me, it just kind of gave a little bit of texture and layer to this layout. Because I have so many different layers and colors, I just wanted to bring a little of that white through from the decorative paper and just really kind of get in there and do a little extra detail with that. So I hope you can see the distressing. It's super easy to do, but again, just kind of gives a little bit of that ruggedness to your page. So those are the tools we're going to grab. Okay, let's get started on creating our layout. Grab your 12-inch trimmer and your paper. Okay, so let's start first with the pumpkin paper. I'm going to just do one cut, but of course, remember to do 2 cuts for this, and I'll kind of let you know about that when you're going through, because I've already completed this one page. Okay, so I promise it won't be too confusing. This is definitely a directional paper, so please keep that in mind, which direction your pumpkins are running. And I wanted to create this really fun border that's going to go across both both pages, the 2-page spread. And so I wanted it to be substantial enough that you could really see the pumpkins in here. And so we're going to cut this strip at 1 3/4 inches. So you'll need to cut that twice. But again, remember that you want to see the direction of the pumpkins going across the bottom of your page. So I'm going to rotate this paper and then cut it at 1 3/4 inches. Okay. And then you're going to do that again yourself. All right, so let's take that and set that aside if you're creating a 2-page spread. All right, that is from the designer paper pack. let's move on to the Tone on Tone paper pack. So from this paper, remember I said I'm going to be a little stingy with the burlap because I love this paper. And so one of the tricks I like doing when I want that beautiful reveal on the edge of the page is miter cutting my corners. So you can kind of see right here, all I did was miter cut the corners. And so this is just a small strip, but it looks like it's an entire page once you lay it down and look at it on your layout. So my corners are actually cut, but again, I think that that just adds a little texture to the layout, and I love that it saves a lot of paper because otherwise I would have to gut this whole thing out, and then I'm left with an awkward size. Okay, so in order to create this background miter cut, we're going to trim 6 3/4 inch strips. Okay, so we're going to go a little bigger. We're going to cut it at 3/4, even though I only have a 1/2 inch reveal. That just kind of gives you a place to layer these different pieces onto. Okay, so 3/4 inches. I'm going to use the right-hand side of my trimmer. And I'm going to cut this at 3/4 inches. And for me, I'm going to cut 3 times. But again, if you're doing a double page spread, you're going to cut 6 of these because it's going to go around both pages. Okay, there's 2 and 1 more. 30. All right. So once you have you'll do that 6 times. What I want you to do though is for 2 strips at a time. So 4 of these will have a miter cut and 2 strips will not. Okay, 2 strips we're going to leave just like this. We are going to make our miter cut in, but what I want you to do is take it and do face to face. Okay, so whether it's denim to denim or burlap to burlap, I'm going to use burlap to burlap. I want you to do face to face and hold that securely and lay that on the 45-degree angle. And if you've taken or watched videos of mine, you know this is what we've done before are these miter cuts, and I love them. So we're going to line up our paper. The top portion here of that strip is going to go on my little dotted cutting line. So I have to make sure that is lined up. And the rest of my paper follows the 45-degree angle the entire way down. And you want to make sure you get a good hold on that. I always like to go from the fattest part of the paper up to the point when I'm making these miter cuts. So I'm going to take and run my blade from the bottom to the top. Just nice and easy. Okay, and that's cut both of those off. And now I have a beautiful mitered edge. So what this is going to do is just create your corner, your background, one on one end and one on the other end. Okay, and that's why you don't even need, since we're layering, you don't even need to cut this piece. Okay, these will go right on top. So if you're doing this again for the second page, you'll want to repeat this process. So what you'll see though is for the entire 2-page set, you only need 6 3/4 inch strips. So you're still going to have, and that's only for one piece of paper. So you're going to have an entire extra sheet of burlap and the rest of this sheet. So I really like being able to do a detail like the background using just strips of paper. Okay, so the next paper is our printed tone-on-tone pine paper. On this paper, what we're going to do is trim 1.5 inches off, and that's the full 12-inch length. Okay, so I'm going to move this over to 1.5. All right, just there. And you can also look here that we are at 11.5 or 10.5, excuse me. 10.5 right there, all lined up. And we're just going to trim that nice strip off. That is an extra piece. And now we're going to rotate our pine paper and trim just 3/4 of an inch off the end. Okay, so just rotate and then trim 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so this will be a shorter little piece, and we're going to put that aside, but we will save this background piece. Now, again, this is all up to you. These are layer upon layer. This piece is what goes under my photo background layer. So if you want to go ahead and take a chunk out of this paper to save, you're welcome to do that. I'm going to just leave this for now, and I will show you how to do that with the dark green paper. Okay, so let's set that one aside. And then the last piece of the tone on tone is the dark brown wood paper. Isn't that just gorgeous paper? So we're actually not going to cut this paper with a trimmer. We're going to punch a vine out of one of the edges, and that's really all we're going to need this paper for. So I'm just going to set that aside and come back to do the punching and just continue with our last few cuts for paper. So now we're moving on to the Shades of Golden Harvest paper collection. And what I'd like you to grab are the mint and the dark green and the orange paper. So with the mint paper, what we're going to do is just cut a 3-inch strip. Okay, and this is also directional somewhat. So you kind of decide which way you like it. I'm kind of going with almost like the pattern is going this way, and then I'm going to slice it this way. And the back side is just dotted, so you really don't have any reason. Either way works fine. So we're going to make a 3-inch slice with this mint green paper, and just set that aside for now. We're going to come back to it. And then the rest of that paper is extra. And now let's talk about the dark green layer. So trim a little bit, but we're going to gut this paper because I didn't want to give up most of this paper just for this little tiny reveal edge. So first for this, we're going to trim a 1/2 inch off the 12-inch side. Okay, so we're just going to come over here and we're going to trim 1/2 inch off. And you can set that piece aside. And now we're going to rotate the paper and trim 1 inch off. Okay, so all the way over and trim 1 inch. So you can see this is that layering piece where the pine paper goes on top. They both line up edge to edge on one side, and then it leaves that beautiful reveal all the way around the other 3 sides. So what I wanted to do was just allow some space to cut the center out of here. So basically what we need to do is make sure one of the edges, so it would be a good idea to go ahead and layer your papers just like this so you know which side to cut your U out of. Okay, so I know like the papers don't work this way, right? It doesn't go together. They work this way. Okay, so what you want to do is then kind of set aside your pine paper, and then I know I need to cut into this edge. So I'm going to rotate this paper, and I'm just going to leave a good amount. Again, I'm being generous on my margins just so that you have places to stick things together. Okay, so I'm going to come down from the top and I'm going to stop at 10. Okay, I'm not going to go all the way down. Just stop at 10. So you're going to line up the white line on your ruler on the side on the housing unit with the 10. Okay, so just over to there. Now I'm going to turn and rotate my paper. So I already remember this is the part I'm not cutting in. I'm not I'm leaving. Okay, so I'm going to continue my U shape. So again, turn my paper, line it up at the 1-inch mark right here. And there's so many different ways to gut your paper. You know, everybody might have a little different technique. So instead of going all the way up to the top, I'm going to come down to the 1-inch line right here on my trimmer, press down, and then go down and stop again at 10 inches. And now I'm going to turn that last bit and come in here with my blade and start at the 1-inch. Don't go to the top, start at the 1-inch. But now I can slice all the way down through. Okay, so I've cut my U shape. And you can see, don't worry if you've missed a little spot. Sometimes it's hard to catch that with the trimmer. But remember, we're just gutting. So just take your scissors and snip that out. So now you have this beautiful piece, great for layering or adding photos to. But we're going to set that aside for now. And you should have this really cool U-shape piece left. Okay, so let's set that aside with our pine paper and talk about the last piece of paper. So what I'm going to have you do is be flexible with this paper. If you'll notice on this layout, I have 2 3x3 photos and a 4x6 that has a double mat on it, actually. And I've left a lot of orange kind of as the background. So because I knew what photos I wanted to have on this side, I made sure to make the length this way kind of work for the photos I had. So I'll give you the dimensions that I have on this paper, but what you'll see for the other side is I have some other photos selected. So I'm going to leave the length of this until I select the photos and kind of get them in place, and then I will cut that so that it has the same kind of a reveal. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. But basically, this is a horizontal pattern. I wanted my stripes to be going horizontally, and the main height that I want to have you cut is this 8-inch height. Okay, so I'm going to rotate my paper and cut this at 8 inches, just like that, and set the other half, that other piece aside, and then we will just come back and decide exactly where we're going to trim this once I've put my photos. So these are the photos that I've printed for this side of my page, and I have 2 larger photos. And then here's a little tip for you also. I print sometimes straight from photos. I have a Mac, and if you choose 2 photos at once, so if you select 2 different photos and you do a custom size and select it at 2.75 by 2.75, you get this really neat 2 up on a page, and it's just so fast. I know I've talked about Canva and other things that you can do in order to get these smaller sizes, but it's just such a quick, easy way to get 2 photos on a 4x6. And you know, I love printing at home. So this allowed me to trim that little bit of white reveal. And so these 2 are going to go down here. Now you can see I have all my photos trimmed down, and I can place them right here on this piece of orange paper. And I love this bright orange as the background, especially because they were carving pumpkins and so on. It's such a beautiful shade of orange. But you can also see now that I'm really not going to trim because of my photos. I'm not going to trim a whole lot off the edge of this orange paper. I love having these all laid out, and I focus on my photos first when I'm creating my layouts. So I always like to make sure I have room for everything that I want to have on my page as far as photos go. And then I trim my paper so that it it complements those photos. Grab a piece of white cardstock, or I always like using index sheets from paper packs that I've opened. And let's create our base layer. So what we're going to do first is start with our burlap strips and get that layer down first. So what you'll want to do is use the one that doesn't have the miter cuts, and we're going to set that in place on the side first. Okay, so I'm just going to add my adhesive here. Add this right to the edge. Okay, and just set that in place. Now you'll notice you have your two mitered edges, and you're going to want to put those in place again with the angles going towards the corners and the flat part going towards the edge of your page. Okay, so we're going to flip both of those over. Let's add our adhesive. And set that in place. Okay, and you can see how beautifully that makes a nice corner, and you really can hardly tell that that has a cut in it, in my opinion. Okay, and then we'll put this in place up at the top and all the way across. And then we have our first base layer done. Now we're going to take this fun piece that we cut out of the green paper and where we saved this whole inside piece, and we're going to add this U shape right on top. Okay, so now a trick that you'll want to use, and which is why I love using the Creative Memories mats, is that you're going to need to make sure your paper's lined up at the bottom. And we're going to start this green paper at the 1/2 inch mark. So we're going to create that 1/2 inch reveal all the way around. And you'll see the corner lines right up at the miter cut. And the same over here. We're going to put this green all the way across. It'll be all at the 1/2 inch mark. And then when we come and bring it over, you can see my paper moved. Let me get that back lined up. And I'm going to bring this down so that it also lines up the top of this at the 1/2 inch mark. Okay, so we've got everything there in place. We have a 1/2 inch reveal all the way around our paper. Okay, so let's get that squared in. And now we are ready for the pine paper. And remember, this only goes one way. It won't go the opposite way. So you need to make sure that it's turned where the reveal is that tiny little 1/4 inch reveal. And then we're going to set that piece in place. Now, again, this is where if you would like to do the same thing as we did to the green paper, feel right ahead to cut through and create another U shape with the pine paper. Okay, so I'm going to set that in place and work on my reveals, and everything, since I'm working on the right-hand side, everything is lining up straight on the left-hand side. If you're working on the left-hand side, of course, everything is going to be lining up straight on the right-hand side. When I was putting this together, I just kept staring at this beautiful brown wood paper and said, how can I bring in that gorgeous dark brown in a texture layer? And so what I ended up deciding on was using this vine punch. So I'm just going to take the edge of my paper and punch this vine out of this beautiful dark brown wood. And sometimes I do like using papers in unexpected ways, right? So instead of using like a green or a leaf paper, no, we're going to use wood paper for this vine punch. And I think that that's just kind of a fun way to play with your punches, is just sometimes do maybe something that is a little unexpected with your design. Okay, so there we have the edge of it. So the rest of this brown paper is just extra. You might want to use it to back some of your photos, but we'll put that aside for now. So now we have this gorgeous brown vine and our little cute strip of pumpkin paper. So one thing I want to do is actually make a banner cut at the end here. You can see how I did that over here. And again, the easiest way to do that is just to use your micro tip scissors and find the center of your strip. So this is the easiest way for me to do that, is I just kind of fold that over a little bit at the end, pinch it, and now I'm just going to cut from the folded part to the tip with my scissors. And actually, I'm not going to go straight to the tip. I'm going to go just about 1/8 of an inch in. And the reason for that is because I want this banner cut to be just a little in from the edge of the paper. I don't want these points to be right up against the edge. Okay, so you can see now I have that. There's just a little bit of a reveal, super easy. Banner just cut and snipped away with my scissors. Okay, so that's about all I took off the end. Not very much, just a smidge. Okay, so then the next piece is the brown vine. And you'll notice again, we're working on 12-inch formats, but I didn't want the entire 12-inch strip. You'll notice here, it's actually shorter. So let's grab our multi-purpose scissors again. And what we're going to do is kind of cut in these leaves here and create kind of our own little end piece. So I'm going to go down into here, and then I'm going to take and use the angle of this leaf and kind of just make almost like a little V cut, so that those leaves kind of just follow that same pattern, and it gives a really pretty ending to that punch. So once I have the ending done, I'm going to add a little adhesive on the back side. Again, this is the repositionable adhesive, and lay that in place. So I want a little reveal again on this end, but I also want to snip off this end over here, kind of in a good place. Okay, so I'm going to get that down. I'm going to push it down a little lower towards the bottom of this little banner and set that down. And now I'm just going to come back in with my scissors and snip off the end of that brown layer. Okay, so you'll notice what I did is I mirrored the pattern of this vine and banner. So I have the banner cut on this end, the banner cut on this end, my vines going out this way, and then my vines going out this way. Okay, so that's just kind of gives that cohesiveness and flow to the page. So now you can see I went ahead and loaded my photos onto this bright orange background paper, which I love. So let's talk a little bit then about some of these finishing touches. So I went ahead and clustered my photos in a format that I liked. And now I'm going to take my little nail file and just distress some of the edges of this paper, giving it a little bit of texture as I go through and add that detail to this paper. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and finish the rest of the distressing on this paper and be right back. You can see how I've added some texture all around the edges of that background paper. And again, it's kind of important first to know what photos you want, trim your paper, and then do the edge detail so that it works for you. Okay, so I'm going to now place this in place so that it is consistently lined up with the other side. So it's about a 1/2 inch reveal from the top, but again, go with what works for the photos you have and how you've trimmed your paper down. Okay, I'm going to just add that right in. And again, everything's lining up on that one edge. Okay, once you've got that in place. Okay, once I have this in place, it's time to add my little banner with the wood punch detail. And again, I'm going to place that. So it does overlap the bottom of your orange square just a little bit. Sometimes I do like making sure things are connected, and sometimes I like that they are separate, but I did want a little bit of that overlap on this one. So now we're going to add those final finishing touches that are going to just pull our page together and add that little bit of fun and detail. So as you can see, once again, on this side of the page, I have kind of a large pumpkin cluster here at the edge of the border and corner here with my photos. And then I also added this punched tag paper. So what I want to do is share with you, we have this one extra piece of green paper, which I had you cut. And you'll say, oh, but Lauren, this punch only goes up to 2.5 inches. And I had you cut a 3-inch piece. Yes, I did. Because that really isn't much of an issue. All you're going to do is just not really use the track on your punch, but go ahead and just slide your paper in carefully so that it will still go all the way in. And make sure you have even edges on these sides, and then go ahead and punch the top of your paper. So yes, you're going to have this very awkward looking end piece here, but then once again, you're just going to bring your precision scissors in, snip off those edges, and now you have a 3-inch tag that you can add to your page. Sometimes I think a really nice wide tag just gives that little pop of color that you can just tuck in different places and adds that really fun texture and layer to your photos. So then what you can do once you've punched the end, just trim this to whatever length that you want, and then you can tuck it in behind your photos. Now, on this side of my layout, what I wanted to focus on was kind of what I wanted to do in this corner of the page, mirroring what I've already done on the other side. So what I ended up doing was taking the embellishment with the fence, and I tried using the fence, but it just kind of wasn't working on this layout. The patterns were not working for me, but I really liked these pumpkins. And yes, there's some that are also stickers that you could choose to use if you don't want to pull your fence apart. But I really liked the pumpkins. So I went ahead and added some foam tape from Creative Memories to the back. Just see where this little cluster might work the best. So I kind of like it where it's touching a little bit of my journaling. I'm not covering up too much of this photo, but I'm getting some of those layers in and adding this detail. Okay, and I've still got this beautiful banner, this beautiful punched edge that I can see, and I'm adding in these stickers and layers of leaves. So I really kind of like that. And then what I ended up doing was going into Canva, and I do have a video on how to use Canva with the Creative Memories digital kits. Now I just want to talk a little bit about what I ended up doing with this fun little card. I was originally trying to use the journal card with Fall is Here on it, and I was just realizing the words were too big kind of for this layout. There really isn't a good place to kind of tuck this in or make it happen. It just didn't seem to be fitting right. And then I remembered I have Canva, and you can pull in the Creative Memories digital kits and then print them, resize them, and print them whatever size you want. So I ended up playing around a little bit in the program and shrunk down, as you can see, this journal card so that it was much smaller. So I have this format to work with, or even really small right here. And I made this little tiny one. And then I also thought a fun title for this page would be Carving Memories. So I did a couple different Carving Memories titles, and then I just printed it all at once. And if you're interested again in learning more about Canva, check out my video on how to bring digital into traditional albums. It's right here on my channel. I took the little card that I had printed and just trimmed these little elements down, and you can see how much smaller these are from the original journal card. And I just think that's going to work a little better for my layout. And when I was kind of looking around where I wanted to place these different elements, I really thought that it would be fun to have a title up in this corner. So I ended up taking that green tag that I had tucked into my photos, if you remember, and I just pulled it out a little bit. Thank goodness for repositionable adhesive. And then I realized this little title now fits perfectly in this section. So I think I'll leave that there and add a little adhesive to include it up in this corner. And then I've still got that tag element, which I really like, and that little bit of green, which is tying into these other parts of green on the layout. And then I have this little Carving Memories, and this is again something I just typed into Canva and printed. We didn't have something like that on our sticker sheet for this collection, but I thought it was just the perfect little sentiment for this layout. So there is the Golden Harvest Scrap With Me collection and 2-page layout. And as always, if you enjoyed this video and you enjoy the Scrap With Me videos, be sure to leave a comment and let us know. Kylie and I love reading your comments. Love it. It just brings us so much joy. And we appreciate every single comment that you leave for us. Also, don't forget that we have on our websites at Kylie's website at Paper Sweet Pea and my website at Craft Some Joy, the layout guides for these videos. So if you're interested in building your Scrap With Me collection, just go ahead and head on over to our websites and you can download the instructions on how to create these pages with sketches. So both Kylie and I have those on our websites and available for you. And also, if you would like to see some still shots of these photos, make sure to head over to either my Facebook page or my Instagram account, whichever platform you enjoy following on, and check out the close-ups and stills of this 2-page spread. Thank you once again for joining me, and until next time, I hope you take time to craft some joy.